The next situation within inflection route number 1 is when a display form ends with the syllable 저, 저, 저 once 다 is removed. For example, 어쩌다, 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 which is the display form of the verb that means do something about something or do what about something. For example, when you want to say, I have to do something about this situation. Or when you are saying, what are you going to do about this situation? Now you can see that it is a perfect example because if we remove ta, it will end with the syllable 저, 저. So in this case, in order to inflect the ta ending into some kind of a new ending, we will apply a 3-step formula. Step number 1, to remove ta, which we already did. Step number 2, we will change the 저 syllable into 제. So according to step number 2, now we have 어째, 어째, 어째. Now, according to step number 3, we can attach some kind of a new ending. In this case, let's use the ending that indicates actual form past tense, which is 써요, 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 which is of course an ending that belongs to inflection route number 1. So now, according to step number 3, we have 어째서요, 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 which is the actual form past tense of the verb do something about something or do what about something, which is did something about something or did what about something. For example, we can use it when we say something like, what did you do about your car? For example, my friend has a car, but this car was causing some issues. So my friend had to do something about it. So I am going to ask this friend, what did you do about your car? Now, first of all, of course, before we translate, I am going to omit grammatical components that are either too obvious according to the context or are components that are not used in Korean. First of all, I will remove did, placing did as an auxiliary verb in a question sentence that already has a verb, do what about, is not something that you would do in Korean. So I will take it away. However, if I do take it away, there is a fundamental issue. That issue being that now there is nothing that is indicating past tense. So that's why in this type of a situation, the verb has to indicate past tense itself. That's why we are going to use the verb do what about, however not in present tense, we're going to use it in past tense. Did what about. That is why we gave the verb do what about the past tense ending and made 어째서요. Next, I will remove you because you is almost always too obvious according to the context and situation, right? Because if I am calling someone you, it means one of two things or both. It means I am directly looking at you as I'm speaking, or you are the only one participating in this conversation with me right now, or both. So of course, I'm talking to you. And of course, I'm talking about your car. You said that your car is causing some issues. So of course, I'm talking about your car. Which leaves us with the object car and the verb do what about. However, because we took away did, we're going to have it indicate past tense. Therefore, did what about. So therefore, the Korean sentence will look like 차 어쨌어요? 차 어쨌어요? 차 어쨌어요? There aren't many words that fall into this category, so now we will move on to the next situation within inflection route number 1, which is when a display form ends with the syllable ha, once ta is removed. For example, 피곤하다, 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 which is the display form of the adjective tired. And you can see that it is a perfect example because it ends with the syllable ha, once ta is removed. In this case, in order to inflect the ta ending into some kind of a new ending, we will apply a 3-step formula. Step number 1, to remove ta, which we already did. And then step number 2, we're going to change the ha syllable into he. So according to step number 2, now we have 피곤해, 피곤해. And then, according to step number 3, we can now attach a new ending. This time, the ending that we will use is 서, which is the equivalent of because. There are a couple of versions of because in Korean. However, some of them should not actually be used in everyday speech, and some of them are only used in very specific tailored situations. However, 서 is a version that you can use pretty much in all situations. So we are going to give tired the because ending. And now, according to step number 3, we have 피곤해서, 피곤해서, 피곤해서. And now it is no longer just tired, now it's because tired. Now when would you say something like because tired? Well, let's look into an example. For example, when you are saying, I have to rest because I am tired. Now you can see that we have because functioning as a conjunction. What is a conjunction? A grammatical component that will be placed in between two sentences. I have to rest, I am tired, so that these two sentences can work as one, can function as one, a compound sentence. However, I don't like calling them conjunctions because in Korean, you will see a lot of grammatical components that are technically not conjunctions, however still play the role of connecting two sentences. Therefore, instead of calling them conjunctions, I will call them bridges. A bridge, something that bridges, connects two sentences. For example, because, if, when, and, but, so. Now, one of the biggest reasons why inflection is by far the most important aspect of learning Korean is because inflection is what gives you access to bridges. Bridges. For example, once again, because, if, when, but, so, and, etc. Because as you can see, bridges, not just because, but all bridges are not independent components. They are not standalones in Korean. They have to become a part of another word as their endings. That is why the bridge because, 서, became a part of the word tired as its ending. That's why we have the adjective because tired. It is no longer the adjective tired, it is the adjective because tired. Therefore, there are two things that you have to keep in mind when you are using a bridge in Korean. Number one, do keep in mind that bridges are not standalones, they are not independent components, they have to become an ending and become a part of another word. And the second thing that you have to keep in mind when you are using a bridge is that you have to identify whether a bridge is a reverse bridge or just a regular bridge. Now, what is a reverse bridge? What happens if you do have a reverse bridge? Well, quite literally, if you have a reverse bridge, it means that you have to have the order between the blue sentence and pink sentence reversed. So you have to start with the pink sentence, cross the bridge, and then go to the blue sentence. Now, how do you know if the bridge that you are using is a reverse bridge or just a regular bridge? Well, usually, if you apply a simple trick, it will tell you exactly what kind of bridge you have. That trick is try saying the bridge and the second sentence first. And if it still makes the same logical sense and flow, well, that tells you that you have a reverse bridge. So let's try. Because I am tired, I have to rest. Well, I think it does make the same logical sense and flow. Therefore, it tells me that because is a very typical example of a reverse bridge. Now, there are bridges, just regular bridges, that do not allow you to apply that trick of saying the bridge and the second sentence first. Because if you do so, the full sentence does not make the same logical sense and flow anymore. For example, but. For example, if you are going to say, it is cold, but I won't wear a coat. You can see that but is functioning as a bridge. It is staying in between two sentences. It is cold, I won't wear a coat, so that they can work as one, a compound sentence. However, but does not allow you to apply that trick, the trick of saying the bridge and the second sentence first, because if I do, this full sentence no longer makes the same logical sense and flow. Let's try. But I won't wear a coat. It is cold. So you can see that the trick does not work with but, therefore it tells you that but is just a regular bridge. So therefore, because but is just a regular bridge, when you are using but as the bridge, you will go in the same order. Blue sentence first, cross the bridge, and then go to the pink sentence. However, because is a reverse bridge. So once again, when you are using a reverse bridge, pink sentence first, cross the bridge, and then go to the blue sentence. So with that being said, let's start translating this sentence. We are going to start with the pink sentence because it's a reverse bridge, right? Now on the pink sentence, of course, I will start by omitting components that are either too obvious according to the context or components that are not used within the structure of the language of Korean. Now let's say my friend comes to me and says, "Hey, would you like to go get some pizza?" And I am going to say, "I have to rest because I am tired." Well, if that's the case, of course I'm talking about I. So I will not stay, and we will not take into consideration is, am, was, were, are. Which leaves us with tired, the adjective tired. Now, when I was first explaining the concept of bridges, I said a bridge is not an independent component. Therefore, it has to become a part of another word as its ending. Now, if that's the case, which word does it have to go to? It goes to the word right in front of it. And because the pink sentence will go first, Tired is the word right in front of the bridge because. So keep in mind, bridges have to become a part of the word right in front of them. So if we look at it from that perspective, once again, we do not have the adjective tired. We have the adjective because tired. 피곤해서, 피곤해서, because tired. Now we finished the first sentence, crossed the bridge, so let's head into the blue sentence. On the blue sentence, of course, I will first omit I. Of course, I'm talking about I, and we will review what we have learned, studied in the 5th video of Inflection Route number 1. In the 5th video, we talked about how we will inflect a display form that ends with the we vowel once ta is removed. For example, 쉬다, 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 which is the display form of the verb rest. And we will inflect the display form of rest according to the rules of inflection route number 1. Why is that? Because the have to ending, 야 돼요, is an ending that belongs to inflection route number 1. So, what are the rules? The rules were, when a display form ends with the we vowel, once ta is removed, you apply a 3-step formula. Number 1, remove ta. Number 2, add an extra syllable, all. And then number 3, now attach the ending that you are going to use. In this case, have to. 야 돼요. So altogether, 쉬어야 돼요. 쉬어야 돼요. And it is no longer just rest, now it's have to rest. So if we know how to say have to rest, what does that mean? It means that we have the blue sentence. And by extension, we have the full sentence as well. 피곤해서 쉬어야 돼요. 피곤해서 쉬어야 돼요. 피곤해서 쉬어야 돼요. Because tired, have to rest. So you can see that if your goal is to actually make sentences that actually function so that you can actually use the language, well, everything boils down to inflection. And that's why inflection is by far the most important aspect of learning Korean. Even in this sentence alone, we inflected twice according to the rules of inflection route number 1. First, to give tired the because ending, and second, to give rest the have to ending. Now, let's get back to the ha situation. For example, 복잡하다, 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 which is the display form of the adjective complicated. So you can see that it is a perfect example because it ends with the ha syllable once ta is removed. So of course, we will apply the same 3-step formula that we applied to the display form of tired. Step number 1, remove ta, which we already did. Step number 2, change the ha syllable into he. And then step number 3, now we can attach a new ending. This time, the ending that we will use is 쳐요, 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 which is an ending that is the equivalent of get when it is being attached to an adjective. Adjective 쳐요, get adjective. For example, when you want to say something like, it gets dark early these days, or it gets cold in winter. So according to step number 3, now we have 복잡해져요, 복잡해져요. 복잡해져요. Which is no longer just complicated, it's get complicated. For example, we can use it when we say it gets complicated later. For example, my friend is learning something new, and it has been 2 days since he has started. And he says, it is very easy. I must be a genius. And let's say I am going to say, well, that's because you are on the beginner's level. If you keep on advancing, it gets complicated later. So of course, let's first start omitting. I will remove it because, of course, we are talking about whatever it is my friend is learning. And there is no I get and it gets in Korean. So we will remove the S, which leaves us with the adverb later and the verb get complicated. Now do keep in mind, when you are attaching get to an adjective, now you end up with a verb. It is no longer the adjective complicated, it is the verb get complicated. So we will look at get complicated as the verb of the sentence. So therefore, the Korean sentence will look like 나중에 복잡해져요. 나중에 복잡해져요. 나중에 복잡해져요. Get complicated later. Now that was it for this video. In the next video, we will keep on moving forward until we cover each and every situation within inflection route number 1. Inflection is by far the most important aspect of learning Korean. Therefore, if you fully grasp inflection through this course, you are not taking a step forward, you are taking 1,000 steps forward. So don't give up, and I will see you in the next video.